Folks, I've had people tell me on more than one occasion, you know, Bryan, you'd probably be a pretty good lawyer. And my pat answer is, yeah, maybe so, but I don't know what would have been harder for me, getting into law school or getting out of law school. I could do the lawyer thing, but those other two deals kind of precluded it all. And that's why it's always fascinating to me to have someone that did everything and became a lawyer, and that's what they're doing today and doing it very well. We have a lawyer right here on the show with us today, Mr. Thomas Esparza Jr. He's in the Austin area, and he's going to chat with us now about how he got where he is today, and most importantly, how he might just be able to help you. Thomas, welcome to the show today, sir. How are you?
Bryan, I'm doing just fine. Thank you very much for having me. I got a story to tell.
Oh, I know you've got a story to tell, and we're looking forward to sharing it. But before we get into law, I got to know something. Are you one of these guys that way back in the day as a little kid, you always wanted to be a lawyer, or did you have other aspirations growing up?
Now, I wanted to be an astronaut. I mean, that was the 60s. You were trying to beat the Russians, and they beat us with Sputnik. So I said, put me in the can, I'll go. But I was too big. I was all B's. I was too big. I was too blind, and I was too brown, to fit. So I gave up on being an astronaut, and I hit calculus like a bug on a windshield. And that was the end of time in the astronaut corps. And so I decided it was probably going to be better for me to try to save the world. So I took sociology and sociology. And my junior year, my parents were like, son, what are you going to do with a sociology degree? And then I had the realization that the only thing I could do with a sociology degree, and I apologize to all those sociologists, but I didn't want to stay in academia. So I decided I was going to get a teaching certificate. But I started to apply to law school as well. And so I went from A&M, where I graduated in 74, to the University of Texas, and where I graduated in 1977.
Well, there's the rare combo for all of us that love the great state of Texas. I mean, the stories you could tell just from being maroon and burnt orange at the same time. You have a lot of inner conflicts there, but that gets us where we are today. So when you decided you wanted to get into law, did you look at different types of law, or did you kind of know from day one that you wanted to get into immigration law?
I didn't have a clue. I thought in 1977 from UT, they pump you up. I wanted to go save the world. So I went to a legal aid office. I'm not going to talk about the town. And in that legal aid office, their idea of saving the world was doing divorces. And doing divorces and doing divorces and doing divorces. And after about 10 months, I was very frustrated because I wasn't saving the world. And the judge asked me, are you happy here? You've been doing divorces and you're good at divorces, but is that what you want to do in this town in Texas, which is a long way from my hometown in Edinburgh? And I said no. And I went back and I gave him my notice, and I came to Austin. And I was looking at I worked at the placement office in law school. So I went back there. I said, maybe there'll be a job up there. And the loan officer from the placement office at the University of Texas, Anna Saldana, said, you know what, Tom, there's not a single lawyer south of the river. So I went back and talked to my parents. My parents are old school Edinburgh, and they wanted Tom to stay in Edinburgh, stay close, get married, have grandkids, work at the DA's office. And so I was a little afraid, that I was smothering, because I've been to beat the Russians, get out, seek your own fortune. You remember, well, now I'm older than you, but Tom Swift, go save the world, do good deeds. So I said, how about Austin? Compromised. I stayed in Austin. My brother and sister stayed there, got married, and had kids, and did their thing vis-a-vis children.
Well, but you did your thing. So you got into immigration law. Now, immigration is one of these, immigration law specifically, it sounds like I'd know what that means, but I'm sure there's so much more into it than I know. So what's a typical day for you when a new client walks into the office? What type of help is it they're looking for?
Well, I've been at this 42 years. I mean, I got into immigration law because I was appointed Justice of the Peace back in '80, and I didn't want a career punishing people, but my promise to the commissioners when I was appointed was I was going to be a lame duck appointment. This was so long ago. Ann Richards was a county commissioner, our former governor. And so the typical day has always been helping people understand or access a complex area of the law. So if somebody might call up and say, my mom came over, with a tourist visa, and I just turned 21, I'm a citizen, and I want to be able to, how can I help her? And so a typical day is spent trying to figure out how immigration law and how immigration law has evolved since I started taking immigration cases in the 70s so that it might benefit, my client. Some of the stuff is all very recent, the deferred action. I get calls in a day. I've got DACA. Can I renew it? And the answer, of course, is yes. And another call might say, I never had DACA. Can I renew it? And the answer today is no, but check with me on Monday. So I try to talk to people and try to find out as much as I can about them, lots of times just to try to keep them from hurting themselves. Because, the one little thing that they don't want to tell me about might wind up being, for them, it might wind up being a permanent bar, because they're thought to be liars. When a lot of stuff that people bring me is really innocuous. So I've been at it so long, I'm a specialist. I try to figure out exactly what it is I can do and what can't be done. And if I can't do it, that means nobody can do it, because I'm a Texas lawyer. I want to be hired. I want cases, but I don't want to hurt people. So I try to figure out what I can do, earn an honest fee out of it, and do a good job. That's what I do.
Well, and that's not all you do either. That's all you do on the lawyering side, Texan to Texan, if you will. But another big thing for you that I noticed in the notes that really stuck out for me is the type of person you are, not just the kind of lawyer, but the type of person you are. You also work really hard to help your clients get educated to the vast amount of resources that are out there. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there to help immigrants, but if they don't know about them, it really doesn't matter. But because you've been doing what you do for so long, you realize those resources are there, and you're able to match people up with the resources. So talk to me about that part of what you do. It's not necessarily on the lawyering side. It's just on the good guy, Thomas side. Tell us why that's so important to you.
Bryan, I'm really proud. I'm glad you asked that. I'm really proud. I've partnered with Foundation Communities here in Austin, Texas. They provide two important services for the citizens of Central Texas. They provide free income tax return preparation for families with adjusted gross income under $50,000, and they are also enrollers for the Affordable Care Act. So I send clients who don't know any better or who are afraid of medical care or getting medical care to them because their children can get it. I explain to my clients that yes, they do have to file a tax return. They have to they have to participate in the American system if that's where they want to be, someday. So I try to find for them honest resources that they can use in Central Texas and actually throughout the United States. I mean, it's important because they're strangers living in a very strange land to them that their children have some access to, but they're defenseless. There's some counties where I tell people, don't drive. Let somebody else drive, somebody who's legal, because if they get pulled over, they'll get arrested and turned over to immigration. The stories that I've heard, it's hard to believe that there's some Texans who are intentionally evil to good people who've got children who are doing nothing but minding their own business, trying to get legal. So I try to partner with good organizations and do good things.
Well, it's so refreshing to meet a good guy for a change. We all hear the stories, exactly the ones you were talking about, and it's nice to know that there's someone out there who even goes the extra mile. Even the lawyer stuff, you're not getting fees for giving people, sending them on the right way to resources. You're doing it for one thing and one thing only, because it's the right thing to do, and that's okay by us. I've got about a minute left. I'm curious about one thing, and I'm sorry it's going to be a long answer, so shorten it up. Do immigration laws vary state to state?
They don't vary state to state. They vary from district, appellate district to appellate district in the federal system, because there's different ways that the laws are being interpreted. So people in California might be able to do something that somebody here in Texas or in the Fifth Circuit would be unable to do, or might not be able to do in New York, but they can do it in Florida. And there literally are lots of situations.
There are a whole lot of situations like that we can't get into now, but I know this much. If you're in the great state of Texas and you happen to need these types of services, doesn't matter where you are, one place to go. That's our guest today, Thomas Esparza Jr. down in the Austin, Texas area. He's been doing it longer than he likes to admit, but because of that, he's really good at it, and he's there for you should you need it. Thomas, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for everything you're going to continue to do, and mostly from me, thank you for coming on the show today. We enjoyed it. Take care.